having the ability or having the need to keep going forward. Just keep going forward. It's not easy. I suffer from depression. There are days when my brain isn't working. It's very frustrating because it was something I could do before and I can't do anymore. Give that gift to the world, I think, is inspiring for people who have disabilities, that you don't have to feel like you've been thrown away. It doesn't mean that you're less productive.
Hey, I'm Tine, your pivot and pay strategist. I help Black women double their income by leveraging their existing skills. I am all about getting Black women paid, whether you're an employee or a business owner. And you're listening to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. I'm your host, Tine, international speaker, award-winning author, founder and CEO of Getting Black Women Paid, and your Audacity coach. Today, we have a guest episode, and I cannot wait for you to hear this conversation. We're talking with an inventor who beat incredible odds after a traumatic brain injury and went on to create a game-changing line of headwear for swimming that's inclusive for people with different hair types all over the world. I'd love to tell you a little bit about our guest and then get right into the conversation. Tess Padmore is an award-winning inventor, self-published author, resilience entrepreneur, and brain injury survivor who has revolutionized inclusive headwear through her patented egghead socks designs. With over 30 years of experience across private, public, and academic sectors, Tess is a pioneering voice in the growing movement for truly inclusive product design and disability-driven innovation. Her transformative approach combines practical problem-solving with profound personal experience to create headwear that serves previously overlooked populations. Through her MWBE and DOBE certified company, Wolf Clan LLC, she has developed specialized solutions for everyone from Black swimmers facing exclusion to cancer patients seeking dignity during treatment. Tess's origin story, emerging from a traumatic brain injury that doctors said would end her career, challenges conventional narratives about disability and creativity. Her groundbreaking swim cap designs, the first ever patented for textured hair, is addressing critical issues of accessibility and representation in aquatics, where drowning rates among Black and brown children remain disproportionately high. She speaks passionately about resilience, innovation through adversity, and the power of creating products that announce you belong here to everyone, regardless of hair type, medical condition, or cultural background. All right, let's get right to the conversation. Well, hello, Tess. First and foremost, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed watching some of your broadcasts.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we are so excited to get right into it. And of course, I always like to start with our guests with an origin story question. So I'm wondering, if you can walk us through how you came to be doing the work that you do now.
Well, now I own a small business, but I actually worked for 30 years. I have an MBA from NYU, and I worked for 30 years in both private, public, and academia on the business level, controller type level. And then now 23 years ago, I had brain aneurysm, which I was not aware of, and it erupted 2 times. And I was not aware that actually my brain had been hemorrhaging for about 5 months. I knew I was sick, but I didn't know what was going on because I'd always had headaches. And my then doctor told me I had fluid in my ears. So I kept walking around, and then eventually it burst a second time. while I was in class giving a presentation. And I thought to myself, on one side of my brain was saying, "Oh my God, am I dying?" And then on the other side, I said, "No, I'm finishing this presentation because I'm not coming back." And I
Pretty
did.
stubborn.
I did. And I used that in the future when I was teaching to remind students, if I could finish my presentation while I had an eruptive brain aneurysm, you can finish yours. Anyway, and I had complications. I was in hospital for a month. I had blood clots. My lungs were filled with blood clots, and there was problems with my heart. I was not expected to live, and I was definitely not expected to leave the hospital. So my family and I were not prepared for what was going to come after. Never had a social worker, any of that stuff. They just sort of rolled me out, and I had to go back to work within 3 months. And so it was a difficult adjustment, and I continued to work for 5 more years, but I was out sick occasionally again until finally the cumulative effect of being ill just took hold. And at the time I was working on doctorate in education. I had two electives to take. Health literacy was my research project, patient education, patient advocacy. And so in 2006, they told me I couldn't work anymore. And then 2007, I was just having so much difficulty. They told me I couldn't go to school anymore.
Yeah.
And um, that feeling of being told you can't do this anymore was really hard because I loved my job, but I worked. I was productive, and I'm a lifelong learner. And taking school away from me was really hard. Um, so I sat down and I thought about it, and I was depressed, and I thought, well, I felt like I was thrown away, essentially, that you're not useful anymore, you're no good anymore. And I felt like I've been discarded. And so I sat down and tried to figure out what could I do? What could I do to continue doing the things that I like doing and making a difference in the world? And so I sort of fell into it. Um, I started journaling. What doctor told me I should journal. And when I started journaling, I found my voice. I found my artistic and creative voice. And that really was God's for me. I joined OSHA, which is for people 55 and older. It's a membership organization at some universities. And the members teach and take classes. So I started teaching film classes and taking classes. And then I had a lot of respiratory problems, and I used to swim. So I decided to get back in the pool and do aerobics because I couldn't do laps. It was never an issue before because I always wore my hair no longer than 2 inches and natural. So a swim cap wasn't an issue, but my hair was pretty long. And the swim cap I went and bought lasted maybe 2 weeks before it flew across the pool, and we all broke out laughing. So I did what people do. I I went to Google and I looked for a larger swim cap, and all I found was other people looking for swim caps. And that night, I drew a picture, took it to Taylor. I was completely naive. Tailors don't do that. But I took a drawing to my tailor and I said, "Can you make that?" She said, "I can make anything. Just go get the fabric." And I went and got this fabric, kind of like pleather that they use to put over baby's diaper. And that was my first prototype. I used that for maybe 5, 6 months and then learned a little bit more and then decided on neoprene. Then someone told me, "Well, you have to find a contract sewer." I said, "Oh, okay. I didn't know that." And I found one, a small woman-owned business in California. And she and I have been working together all along. I got a lawyer, a patent attorney, and we worked on the patent project and got it patented. So in 2013, I started selling. What I would say as a small business owner, though, I'm one of those businesses that's the best kept secret, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That first, I had a lot of sales, but my design was patented. Then I noticed subsequently, slowly every year, more larger swim were coming out. None in my design, but I knew people said, "Oh, okay, we should sell. We should try this. We should try this."
Yeah.
And so been it's been a long road. Having a traumatic brain injury is difficult. I'm fortunate that I wasn't paralyzed and wasn't in a coma. My brain just doesn't work the way it used to work. So it's difficult to multitask. And sometimes I just need help with things that I understand, but I can't move forward. So I just began to understand. But in doing the research for the business, that's what I found about drowning rate among Black and brown children. And that caught me off guard. I was really surprised about it. And right around that same time, there was a family somewhere in the South, I don't remember where they were having a family barbecue at the lake. And there were cousins, tons of folks there. And one of the teens went in the lake. And when they went in the lake, they sort of disappeared. They didn't know there was a drop off. And other family kids going to find the one that didn't come back. All total, 9 kids drowned in that family. And all adults had to watch because no one knew how to swim. No one. So there were two issues with that. One, understanding the environment that you're in, the body of water that you're swimming in, but also to have an entire family where no one knew how to swim and 9 young people died. That hit me really hard.
Yeah.
And it just struck me that something as simple as a swim cap, something as simple as a swim cap should not be a barrier to someone being able to participate in aquatics. Whether they know how to swim or not, but they should be able to participate in aquatics. And some pools require that you have a swim cap. And I thought, why would this one group be excluded from something as simple as a swim cap? So that kind of was the momentum that, because I said to myself, I have a decision to make. I can choose to be sick and just sit here and say, well, I got this brain and I can't breathe. Yeah. But I said, no, I'm going to pick myself up and figure out what I'm going to do because I know how to be sick, but it can be really depressing. And I choose not to. And so even the underpinning of the writing has to do with children because I have an interest in all forms of literacy, whether it's health literacy, media literacy, or reading. That's really important to me. So I go out and I read to first and second grade to me with time.
Oh,
So,
that's wonderful. Well,
yeah.
and I want to pull out a couple of things from the story that you shared. I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. One is that, just the resilience that it takes to go through a traumatic injury and be told that you may never leave the hospital, that you may never work again, and to push through that and come out on the other side is incredible. I also want to emphasize I was picturing you with Google, right? and they always say, right, that necessity is the mother of invention, but the idea that you were Googling something you needed and all you found was other people looking for the same thing and you thought, well, I'm going to make it. That is how you start a business. That is how you find a need and fulfill it. So that is also just an incredible example of that so many of us can take part in. And then of course we get into you actually patenting your egghead socks and sort of the additional piece of when you were doing that research, learning that Black and brown children drown at higher rates than their peers, right? And that so many families have felt excluded from swimming spaces, and in large part because of our hair, right? If you can't get into the pool, how are you going to learn how to swim?
Your hair, also access to pools,
Yep.
pools. There's so many levels to it. And the other thing is, what I've learned over the course of this is that this isn't just something that's unique to the state. It's an international issue.
Yeah.
Drowning among children. The only place that I've been was I had an opportunity to, which was a lifelong dream, to go to Cuba. And we met with the public health people because I was involved in public health. And one of the things the lady said at the meeting, we don't have a drowning problem because we teach our kids how to swim the day they're born. They said, we want your product though, because of our hair, but I can't sell to Cuba. But it was interesting that you know, while I was at that meeting, a professor from Puerto Rico was with us, and she said we have a huge drowning rate problem in Puerto Rico. So it is something that we might take for granted that people learn how to swim or know how to swim,
Yeah.
but it's an international problem. It's not just here. And so I figure out, well, what is it that I can contribute to make a difference? And what I found is if I can provide a cap, this is the battle.
Yeah. Well, and you're so right that it can even be extended to a cultural issue, right? That if we as a society or like groups of us normalize the teaching of swimming to children, right? That is what overall reduces the drowning problem. But I love that you approach it from the space that you can control. And you said, you know what, I'm going to engage in this inclusive design so that more people are welcome into the space. And, you've said that, inclusive design is more than just marketing, right? It's about making products say, you belong here. And I'm wondering what's the difference between, like representation in ads and true representation in the product itself?
Well, I've done two things. I made a point when I say my caps are all inclusive. I've come to learn in my travels and doing shows and things like that, that people in Ireland have hair like ours, and it's a problem. People in Italy have hair like ours, and it's a problem. And I thought, I am not going to exclude anyone.
Yeah.
My tagline is all you need is a head. You don't have to have hair. It doesn't matter what kind of hair you have, you can use my product. So that was very important to me. And then on this journey, in the midst of this journey, I started working on genealogy about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And I hit a wall. My mother's family is from the States. My father's family is from Barbados. And I hit a wall on my mother's side, but I began to go beyond the families that I was aware of on my dad's side. And all of us are scattered all over the world. And all of us had this feeling like, am I the only one? And so
Yeah.
one of my younger cousins, in his 30s, he was born and raised in Mexico. He filmed school, and I found out he was an incredible photographer. So what I told him was I wanted a diverse images here in the States. And then in Mexico, I wanted diverse images of people in Mexico. And so we sat down and we kind of mapped out, we would photograph here, and we targeted his friends because a lot of them are actors and things like that. So he had trips for them. But we tried to compliment people. So when people looked at the website, they could see themselves regardless.
Yeah.
So I try in everything I do. My books are in English and Spanish. So I try to include as many people as I can in whatever I'm doing, and the chemotherapy caps, the medical hair loss caps. What I noticed about those customers as I got to know them was that their issue is more psychological. It
Mm.
was more psychological, and I just want to get in the water and swim. It was more about I've lost how I look. I've lost
Yeah.
sense, and that's something that I relate to being a survivor and what your
Yeah.
mentality is. And I remember asking my sister when I was in the hospital, what do I look like? She said, "Oh, you look fine." And then I got home and looked in the mirror and looked like I'd been beat with a baseball bat. And I couldn't figure out what to put on my because it shaved part of my head, and so it still grows weird because of that.
Sure.
And I had a close friend, and one of my cousins had cancer and lost their hair. And so I was able to send them the caps, and um, they felt so much better about themselves. They said people are really kind and they make caps going to chemotherapy. They said, but they don't tell people how uncomfortable it is. And then the other thing that they told me, I tell them, you can wear the short ones around the house or if you're just going out, but you can buy the longer caps if you're going to do something special and tie it up in a braid and accessorize it and feel put
Yeah.
lipstick on and feel better about yourself. And so I try to take those kind of things into account that someone should be able to look at my products no matter what they're doing, they can find a cap that will work.
Yeah. Well, that really ties into a question I wanted to ask you. You've described your work as trauma-informed innovation. And I'm wondering, how did your experience as a brain injury survivor change the way that you approach creating solutions?
First, my first comment is I realized that after surviving, and to be honest, they did not tell my family I was dying, and they didn't tell me I was dying. And I just didn't know why they kept sending the chaplain and not sending a,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
was because they expected me to leave the hospital. And I've had other problems in my life. My children. So what I try and just the middle right is having the ability or having the need to keep going forward. Just keep going forward.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I suffer from depression. There are days when my brain doesn't work and it's very frustrating because it was something I could do before and I can't do anymore. It's an invisible disability. People look at you. Well, no, I in what they're saying, they'll talk loud. And I'll say, I can hear you, but I don't bring up. So give that gift to the world, I think is inspiring who have disabilities that you don't have to feel like you've been thrown away. It doesn't mean that you're less productive. It just means you
Absolutely.
live differently, you know? And I live every single day like it's the last one, every day.
Mm, that's beautiful. And Tess, before I let you go, I'm wondering for anyone who is listening to this or who's watching and saying, I got to know more. I want to learn about egghead socks or I want to read your books. How can people find you and connect with you?
My email address is tess@wolfclanllc.com. Clan spelled with a C. My telephone number is 585-775-7589. And no one should ever worry about calling me any time of day or night because I'm a night owl. And if you're calling that number, I'll answer it. And then the website for the caps is Egghead Socks, SOQUES.com. And then my author's website will be going live in the next few weeks, and it's tesspadmore.com.
Perfect. And we will have all of that in the show notes as well, so folks can get it there. And Tess, I just want to thank you again. Um, the one, your story is incredible. You know, taking a trauma and moving forward and bringing others with you. right? Using that experience to help include others, to help others feel seen is just incredible. And I also love the work that you're doing to help those of us with natural hair, bigger hair, more hair, right? And as you said, it's not right, all the hair. And it's not just, Black American women, right? There are people all over the world who need and use your products. And so
Yeah.
I think it's incredible what you're doing.
I have bald men and bald women, and I tell them, you don't have to worry because all you need is a head. And I appreciate you having me on the show. And I watched on your podcast. I kind of know what the theme is. And if you ever want me to come back and talk about my professional experience and getting paid, I have a lot to bring to that conversation as well.
Absolutely. Yes. And for folks who want to connect with Tess, again, we will have all that contact information in the show notes. Thank you again so much for joining us. And maybe we'll do a part 2 sometime and really talk about more the corporate side of things. And
because that, I've went through that too. I watched your podcast and just kind of a sneak preview. I will tell you the best thing that happened to me was moving to Alaska. I was there for 15 years, and it was the only place where I worked, where I was paid, I was worth, and I was treated with great respect. So
in
Alaska.
Oh, I think one of our other guests is also in Alaska. So a little connection there. But sometimes you need to make the journey to find the place that's going to treat you well and pay you what you deserve. Absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that to us as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. And thanks to all of you for joining us. And we will see you in the next one. Hey, thanks for watching the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to hit the notification bell so you can catch more episodes like this one. And join the conversation by leaving a comment below. Be sure to share this channel with the incredible Black women in your life so we can continue getting Black women paid. All right, we'll see you in the next one.